So we're kind of going to have a flowers versus thorns thing today in the chapter, which is going to be really fun, or so. Also, I had oral surgery the other day where they had to remove a tooth, so I'm kind of getting used to talking like that, which is not fun. So if I sound a little mumbled at times or a little garbled, I'm sorry. I'm still trying to get used to talking like that, which is not fun. Okay, chapter 1148, titled Rania, or Rania. Rania. I had an uncle named Ron on my mom's side. He was the oldest brother. He has sadly passed like 20 years ago, and he has a granddaughter who was named after him, Ronnie. And so that's just kind of fun going on there. Okay. So first we start off with the cover page chapter, which is, of course, more of the Yamato cover story. And Yamato is leaving the Udon area. We see like part of the Udon prison in the background that is being rebuilt. Also, I'm assuming this is going to be like where Raizo will be living as the daimyo of Wanyo, daimyo of Udon, excuse me. We see that Yamato is saying goodbye to Raizo, Speed, Tama, and Komichio, and Yamato has a freshly made Kasa hat in her hand. We don't see Shinobu. I'm assuming Shinobu was still back at like Amagata Village area, although why Shinobu didn't go with them to help, I don't know. But we get that, and we also see that Ulti and Page 1 are going to be traveling with Yamato. And that they seem to be taking on that mantle. They are wearing cloaks that have the Kozuki. They have, well, I think it's supposed to be the Kozuki mark on them. So there obviously had to have been a conversation where like Yamato sat Ulti and Page 1 down and explained to them that like, okay, I don't work for Kaido. I don't work for my dad. I have no intention of ever working for my dad again, and I do not believe in his ideals. I am a vassal of the Kozuki family. I am protecting Wano. I'm journeying around Wano. I am returning the sword to the shrine for Yasuie, to the Enma shrine for Yasuie in the Hakumai region, which is probably where they're going next. If you two really want to come with me, that is fine. But that means that you are now sworn to me. I'm sworn to the Kozuki clan. Therefore, you are now sworn to the Kozuki clan. To Momo and to Hiyori and to all that stuff. To Wano. To protecting Wano. Not for Kaido. So there had to have been some type of a conversation that happened between these three. I think Page 1 would be the one that would more easily go along with this because, like, I don't think Page 1 really wanted to be a Tobiropo anyway. I don't really think he wanted to be one of the Flying Six, serve as one of Kaido's commanders. I think Page 1 would be ultimately happy to go off and just have like his little cabin off in the woods and fish, because I think fishing is like his hobby, if I remember correctly from one of the SBSs. Page 1 would just like to go and fish. So if he could make that a life here, he'd be fine with it. And then we have Ulti. And Ulti is actually kind of bowing in the background toward Tama, toward the group that they are leaving. Now, remember, the last time Ulti and Tama were anywhere near each other, Ulti attacked Tama several times and even scratched her face. And Tama got right back up. Tama kept going. So I think Ulti might have a little bit of begrudging respect for Tama there. Also, Tama was just part of the group that helped save Ulti and Page 1 from Who's Who. Assumedly, Who's Who and the rest of his little gang of bandits or whatever are now being taken to the Udon prison. I really wanted to see Yamato go to the Udon prison and talk to King. I don't think that's going to happen at this point in time. That could be something that we get later on. I just really want there to be a conversation between Yamato and King where Yamato tells King about Luffy being Nika and being the new incarnation of Joy Boy and seeing what King's reaction is of that. But I don't know when that's going to happen, if that's going to happen. Really want that to happen. So moving on from the cover page, we go into the actual story and we leave pretty much where we left off last time with, Summers is giving the announcement over the dictation snail that's broadcasting all over Elbath, and currently he is now getting it to the point where they are going to be starting to threaten the children, essentially, like one by one, until the giants comply. And we are with the group of giant children, and we see one of the girls, Rania, title of the chapter, very deserving given what we're going to see her do. She is being forced to walk across one of Gunko's arrows that is pointing out way over the edge of the tree. And so it's essentially they're making her walk the plank, which is funny because pirates. Although this is a plank that is much higher up than most other planks ever get to be when it comes to pirates, because this is the plank on a branch on the largest tree in the world, probably the largest tree to ever exist, and with no discernible way of determining how far down she's going to fall. And that's not good. So she's talking, wow, my legs made a veer off. And the other kids are shouting, Rania, Rania. And there's like, where are you going? You're going to fall. And we see Ilva is like shouting at her as well. And Rania is just kind of like happily walking the rope. And she's like, that's weird, but it's fine. Don't worry about me, Ilva. All good, no problem. This is nothing. And it's nothing. And then she kind of trails off because she like realizes where she is. She is on the edge. She is like right on the tip of the arrow. And essentially all Gunko has to do is like make another arrow or just make this arrow just go boop, and down Rania goes essentially. It's like, oh, fire didn't work. Okay, well, they put out the fire. Okay, well, then we'll just make the children fall. That works too. If this was Luffy, this would not be an issue. He would just bounce, but he's not Luffy. But it's not Luffy. Luffy's somewhere off in the underworld area still digesting his giant brachiosaur lunch or whatever with Loki. Before they decide to free Loki, or we even cut back to them because we don't see them at all in this chapter. And like the rest of the children are just shouting at her and everything. And this is just like this image is like this kind of like looking over like a bottomless pit, but instead of there just being black, there's just white in the clouds, which I'm sure in the anime is going to be like blue with the clouds. I was like, she's just looking down because we don't know how high up they are. They're in the sun layer, which means that they're pretty high up anyway, so there's that. And Rania was like the very positive. She's a very positive thinking person. She's very optimistic and everything. And she's starting to get scared here, which is fair. I would be terrified in this situation, and she's doing much better than I would. And she's just like, and like the others are yelling at her to come back. It's dangerous and everything. You will fall to the underworld and everything like that. Because it's like the concept is like even if by some chance she survives the fall, she's going to get very badly injured. Which, a fall of 100 feet or even, couple dozen feet is going to cause a lot of damage to someone. I'm sure that can be scaled up a bit if you're a giant, just because like you're more durable than a usual human. But you drop anything from a high enough height and it's going to break or get dented or damaged in some case. And virtually something as fragile as bones is not going to do well. Plus there's just also, if you pay any attention like Mythbusters, there's like concussive forces and everything else like that for like how much force you hit the ground with and everything like that can determine like the condition that your organs are in on the inside. Again, that can probably scale up a bit for like giants just because, more durable, bigger type of a thing. But she's still a child. So, yeah. And we see like Gunko is standing there like she has the snail that's still broadcasting so she can listen in on what Summers is saying. And like Rania is just like, she's like shivering and very, very nervous. And Summers is saying, it's Gunko talking to Summers. Summers, the first brat is about to fall. And he's like, perfect. Make sure all of Elbath hears her voice. That might backfire on him a little bit in a minute. And he's continuing. He's like, all right. if in 30 seconds you still haven't made a decision, I'll drop the first kid. Jarl of the Mountain Beard, of the Bearded Mountain, Lord Mountain Beard, ordered the teachers to set fire to the school and the library. And we cut to the Western Village where we see Jarl and we see a bunch of the other giants that are there, possibly other parents of the children and just other citizens and everything else like that. They're like, he's crazy. Lord Jarl, this library holds texts passed down from past generations for millennia. But their lives come first. Do you even realize what you're saying? So this is essentially what is going on here is, of course, this is, Summers, Gunko, and Killingham are forcing the giants to make this decision between their children, the children that are the future of the island, the future of Elbath, and all of this knowledge that is held within the Owl Library. And as you can tell, like, certain words are hard to say right now. All this knowledge that is held in the Owl Library, and all of this, the education and the future that the school represents. And they're just like it's forcing them to choose which one they care about more, which one is more valuable to them. And of course, like any civilization, they're like, but they're both important. There are, the children are the future, literally. I believe that children are the future, if you want to bring that song in here. And then you have, like, all of this past, and, like, this past and everything is, like, what brought us to today. And it's, like, so many of, like, there's the books from O'Hara that are in there. And there's so many other books that have probably come from other countries all around the world, other places. From all around the One Piece world, possibly books that are even like predating stuff that was in, because like the Harley text predates the Void Century. Parts of the Harley text predate the Void Century. Other things that are, other books and stuff like that are in the library probably predate the Void Century and stuff like that. Like there's probably information about like not just the Joy Boy from the Void Century, but also like Nika, the first Joy Boy, the first setup of that. During the first era, the first age, and everything else like that. So it is forcing them to make this decision. Bringing this to kind of personal thing, my mom works for the Nebraska Library Commission, and has for the majority of my life. I am 33 years old. I always remember her working there. We have pictures of me just running around like the stacks of books that they have there. All the different shelves and everything else like that are just books that are like over 100 years old, that are like as old as the state of Nebraska. So it's just like all the stuff that I've been around my whole life. And libraries are always something that have been very important to me. My mom has instilled that within me, within my sister, within my nieces and nephew. Like at Christmas time, it's like she always wants to see at least a couple of books on their Christmas lists. And then she usually tends to get them at least a couple of books. Book drives have always been something very important to us to build up for, either to donate or to just give to other places. And stuff like that. So books and history have always been something that has been very important in my life. And I thank my mother very much for instilling that in me. Not that my dad didn't do that as well, because books matter a whole lot to him as well. My grandfather on my dad's side is even like a published author. Not a lot, but he wrote some plays and stuff like that. So it's like this whole thing where it's just like books mean a lot to me in my life. I have several bookshelves downstairs full of books. Manga, comics, mythology, fairy tales, take your pick. But like here, it's like it's literally Summers is forcing them to make this decision. And like the giants continue, it's just like, the problem isn't their demands, it's the decision we have to make, whether to submit to these guys or not. Because it is literally telling them, pick between your future and these children or your past. And of course, as Summers is going to say in a little bit, it is about destroying their culture. Which I can assume because we know that the world government goes around and they used to do like the native hunting contest. They may still do those, but we're just not sure about that. But they used to do like, the native hunting contest, the human hunting contest, which we will be getting to very shortly in the anime when we see Kuma's flashback. And oh god, where we will see that. But one of the things is we know that they tend that, like, if they come into an island and they are forcing that island to become a member of the world government because that island has resources that the world government wants or something along those lines, this is probably a tactic that they use a lot, where they like kidnap the children and they are using them as this, you have to choose between your future and this, and then by making them destroy whatever their past is, they're then able to use that as a way of like wiping out that history so it can't be remembered as easily, and then probably wipe out certain other people within the community that are like the storytellers and the ones who hold the wisdom and stuff like that, and getting rid of that information. Because if they do so, then that means that it can't be passed on to the next generation as easily, and that is how you slowly make a civilization die out. How you make a people die out, and you're able to just like force them to conform to what you want, and force them to learn the language of the world government, to, all of this other stuff, to, screw this religion, you now follow this religion type of a thing. It's been done in human history multiple times, and this is just a demonstration of that. So we have all the giant shouting, and it's just like, are you suggesting that we just let our kids die? And it's just like, it isn't, is there anyone nearby? We must put an end to this absurd game at all costs. Literally, it is a game. It is a game to the world government. It is a game, well, not to the world government as a whole, but to the celestial dragons. This is a game for them to be able to just be like, oh, this will be quite entertaining to see what choices they will make, or how much it will take of a sacrifice for them to fully grasp the seriousness of the events going on around them. We cut back to where Saul is, and he is still laying down face first into the pile of thorns, and we see Summer's little thorn snake slithering away. And we know that this is very close to where the children are. We don't see the children in the shop, but they're probably like, a little ways behind or up the branch. And we have Robin and Chopper still like in Saul's hair, and Robin's like, Chopper, you stay here. Chopper's like, what? And Robin says, it's too risky to face them before we understand their powers. And it's like, in that case, and Robin's like, yeah, but I can't control my emotions anymore. And we're gonna see what happens, and we see Summers has like Thorns snaked over to where Nami's group is. Brooke seems to have been very, very extremely tied up now, because like Nami, Usopp, and Jinbei are all just, they're apprehended, they're tied up, they can't go anywhere. But Brooke has literally been like mummified, is like what Gunko did to him after like kicking him a bunch of times. Like just arrows all the way up and covering all of his body, where you can barely see his face sticking out of it. Barely see his skull sticking out of it. He doesn't have a face, but you get it. And Nami's yelling at him. It was like, you want to kill kids? You're insane. Even the world's worst criminals don't take children as hostages. Okay, Nami, let's go through this based on just the Straw Hat enemies that you have interacted with. Buggy, in the manga and in the anime, Buggy didn't really take any children hostage, so Buggy gets points for that. In the live action, they have him have the whole town hostage in his circus, so there's that. Kuro technically kept Kaya hostage for a bunch of years, unbeknownst to her, where he could have killed her at any time, so there's that. Although she was a teenager, but still. Don Krieg didn't interact with any children, so that's not really an issue, and Nami didn't really interact with Don Krieg anyway. And then we get to Arlong, and Nami, you were essentially a hostage for Arlong. A willing hostage, because he knew that if he had you, the village wasn't going to go against him. So there's that. Enel essentially kept all of Skypiea hostage, which included children. Crocodile was threatening all of Alabasta, which did have children, but he wasn't specifically targeting them or using them as hostages, so there's that, I guess. Doflamingo did the same thing, had the entire island of Dressrosa hostage, and did not care who the F he killed during the birdcage incident. Kaido, same thing, was going to drop Onigashima on top of the flower capital, where at that point in time the majority of the citizens were partying, and that included a lot of children. So there's that. And then, oh yeah, Caesar Clown. He had children that he was experimenting on, and essentially was going to use them as hostages, as long as they were useful to him. So, okay, even the world's worst criminals. So you don't consider all of these other people the world's worst criminals, Nami? They are horrible. Although, at the moment, I would definitely say I like Summers a lot less than I like any of the other ones, although I don't like Dofi at all anyway. Or, no, I like Dofi as a villain. I don't like Summers as a villain, and I don't like Caesar as a villain. Mostly because, like, they specifically are targeting children, so there's that. So Nami's yelling at Summers, and then Summers is just laughing, and he's like, cut the sob story, it doesn't affect me, and they're just, like, yelling at him more. And we cut to where we have Ripley, Frankie, and the Giant Warrior Pirates. We know that Bonnie and Lilith are here as well, but we don't see them in the shot. We see Ripley talking to Frankie, and she's like, Frankie, I'll join in too. And he's like, of course, don't do what needs to be done. So it was like they're all getting ready to go and fight against Frankie. It looks like he's trying to use his radical beam because they probably have some of the other dream monsters still coming up so they can attack them. So Frankie's probably gonna like get rid of them a bit. So it might be nice to see Lilith like pull out a weapon to use against them. We'll see what happens there, or make some adjustments to Frankie on the fly. That would be fun. And then we see Dorian Broggy and one of the other giants, who might be like the parent of one of the other kids, because we know that at least one of the kids was on the crew, and we know that Oimo's granddaughter is, or grandson is one of the kids on at the school in line right now. So they're like, you know, let's go together. Let's split into two groups. One will fight the monsters and the other will save the kid. So it's just like, okay, plan B, go this way. And we have like the rest of the giants are like, 2 arms. And it's like, let's quickly head to the Arboreal Route 8. I'm still jarbled. I'm sorry. And they're like, bring the ship. So it's like they've got other of the cloud boats that they can use to be able to get up to where they need to in the tree. So they're getting those. They're all like, we're going to go save the kids and everything like that. It's like, we're going to go save the kids and we're going to save the school and the library and all of that stuff. So they're just like, heading to Route 8. And like they're all getting ready, and like we get like a wide shot and we see some more of the monsters. We see like one or two of the dragons. Since the kids are awake, I don't think Killingham should be able to pull out any more dream monsters, but there's still a good chunk of them around for him to be able to manipulate. So there's that. And of course, we're kind of just getting like a wide view of like the branch, where like we see the castle and the Western Village on one end, and then like the school and the library on the other end. And of course, we know that like Summers and Straw Hats are in one area, and like the Gunko and the kids are just like slightly in the same area, but like a little bit away. And Summers is continuing. Also, when you burn the school and the library, no book should be taken out, simply because what we want to destroy is your culture and your history, which is what just sets Robin off fully. And she has popped up, and she is using Cien Fleur, and it's a new attack. It is Cien Fleur Craspedia. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. According to what it says here, the flower is like the symbol, symbolizes unity. I was looking it up. It's this like yellow type flower here. It's kind of pretty. They look more like puff balls is what they look like. Or like cake pops that are like lemonade flavored or lemon flavored cake or something like that is kind of what they look like to me. They're cute. I was trying to find something about what they represented, but I couldn't find exactly, so I'm just going to assume that the translation is correct. And we see her like forming one of her giant arms to just Basically, kind of how she had like the she had a sea dragon snap attack that she used against Black Maria when she was fighting Black Maria that was just like whacking her a bunch of times. And this is more of like Robin's version of like an uppercut where she like someone, and she does that to Summers. So it's very similar to like how Sanji was when he kicked Ethan Barron, when he kicked him, which is fun. So it's like that type of a thing where she's just like bam, hit him, and he's bleeding, and he like falls to the ground, and the rest of the Straw Hats are seeing this. And they're like, Robin, are you okay? It's like, be careful. We don't know much about them yet. And she's like, yes, I know. And Robin is in very serious mode. And like Chopper's kind of watching from like Saul's beard. And then Robin goes into her, the clutch manos, which is where she would, her signature attack that we saw her use a lot in Alabasta, and had used a lot more pre-time skip, hasn't used it as much. But it's what she tends to use when she does like her big, like takes out like big crowd scenes a lot of the time. Just like a whole big crowd of the enemies, where it's this clutch where she just has all the hands pop up out of people and like grab under their necks and like force their necks back and like grab their wrists and like pull their arms forward. So it's essentially designed to like break their necks or their backs or something like that. And Summers is like, I recognize you, you're Nico. Ah! And then he's just like getting bent in half, which is great. We haven't seen Robin use this for a little while. I don't remember. I think she used it a little bit in Wano when they were just going up against like the Kaido's hordes of men and stuff like that during Onigashima. I don't think we've really seen her use it too much. I don't think she had to use it at Egghead Island at all. But we see her do that here, and she is just like, it's like, I don't think Summers is supposed to bend like that, but at the moment, I don't care. So, like, the rest of the crew are just like, oh, Robin, yay, well done, you broke him. And, like, we see Summers on the ground, like, kind of flopping around a bit, and we're hearing Saul's voice in Robin's head, and it's like, these guys are immortal. We can't beat them. And Robin's like watching Summer. She's not taking her eyes off of him. And he just stands back up and is just like, ah. And he's still talking. He's like, you hear me, Elbath? Can you hear me, Elbath? 20 seconds left until the first hostage falls. And Usopp is just like, he's a zombie too, damn it. So it's just like, okay, Usopp, if Gutko could reform, I'm pretty sure that, like, it's not going to do a whole lot of damage to him at the moment. Although we will see something in a little bit that does actually cause him damage, which is good. And he's just like, huh. And he's like looking at Robin, and Robin just jumps him again. And she just like jumps him, makes arms come up, and she's like wrapping herself around him and is like forcing him over the side of the branch. Her with it. Her with him as they just fall. And he's like, hey, what are you doing? Don't tell me you're in love with me. Huh? I was like, no, Summers. Robin is the furthest thing from in love with you right now. She is in murderous rage mode and protective mode because you are threatening children, you are threatening a school, you are threatening a library, and you are threatening what is essentially the remains of her island. The remains of the books that her mother and her mentor in Clover and her friends that were the archaeologists died for. So no, she is nowhere near in love with you. Also, you just beat up Saul like less than 24 hours after she finally got to reunite with him after 22 years of thinking he was dead. So no, she is nowhere near in love with you. And stop thinking that. You're not that much of a catch. You're a horrible person. And the only person who could love you is your mother. But I'm like, probably. But I don't know what he would think about that. His ideas of paternal love are a bit lacking. So they are falling off the branch. And he's like, seriously, you already jumped? Are you trying to kill yourself or what? Your feelings touch me, but I don't want to follow you into the afterlife. And they're just falling. And we cut back to the Straw Hat, and he's like, Robin, what is she doing now? Idiot, did she plan to drag him down too? And I don't know, I think it's Usopp that called her an idiot. I'm not sure. And they're just like falling, and Robin is like, I know perfectly that you're immortal and that you're a Thorn man. If those damn invisible thorns disappear, we can save the kids. And he's like, oh, bravo. He's like, oh, you figured it out. And he's just like, so you thought that by throwing me off the cliff, you'd put the kids out of my reach of powers. Not bad, girl. I mean, it's not a bad idea, although, to be fair, even on like Dressrosa, when it came to like sugar, there wasn't really a range that you could get out of before you were no longer affected by her power. It was just, once you're affected by it, you're affected by it until she either releases you from it, which is not going to happen, or you pass out. Or she passes out. And those are like the only way that you can get out of Sugar's power. With Summers, with some of the other devil fruits, it is like there's a range that their devil fruits work at. Big Mom's does not qualify for this. Brulee's kind of does, I would say, for like her Mirror World, because we don't know how far that can stretch outside of Totland. But essentially there would be like ways of that with Brulee, but that's not what we're talking about here. So essentially, like, he's like, okay, that was a good idea. And he's just like, okay. And then he just makes thorns pop out of his body, and they are stabbing through Robin, through her arms, through her back, through her legs, through her head, like up through her neck and through the top of her head. So Robin kind of looks like an off-center unicorn as it stabs through her. And he's like, huh? And then Robin just turns into flowers. Poof! As they are falling. He's like, she vanished. She really planned everything. Of course she did. She's Robin. She's brilliant. So he's still falling, which is good. Not going to last long, though. And Robin has popped up. I don't remember if I made this prediction or not. I think I had said something about, like, send a clone to go deal with Summers or Gunko, and then have, like, the real Robin go and try to, like, free the other four. So that way they can help with fighting. I think I said something like that in one of the previous chapter reviews. I don't remember which one. I think I made that some type of that prediction, but it's Robin, so that's just like a prediction that a lot of people were making anyway because of her clone ability. So Nami is just obviously, she's like, so classy, Robin. I've got goosebumps all over, because they're just like congratulating her on that move, because it was a brilliant move on Robin's part, and Robin is very good at making brilliant moves. And so she's like trying to rip apart the arrows that are wrapped around them, which is like, damn it, even a knife can't cut these ropes. And you're just like, that means we'll also have to deal with that girl to get out of here, Gunko. And then we hear Summers' voice pops on again. It's just like only 10 seconds left, and it's just like, it's him again. And we see that he had managed to shoot a thorn either out of himself and into the branch, or out of the branch and into himself, one of his thorn vines to like grab onto the branch. So he's not going to fall. He's still a good ways down, and he's going to have to, like, reel himself back up again, as we'll see in a second, or see by the end of the chapter. But he's like, I need an answer, Jarl. Gunko, make them hear the girl's voice. And she's like telling Rania, say something. And, like, Rania has been, like, technically all of this chapter is happening in, like, a minute, if that. Because it's like 30 seconds is the timer that they put on it, but obviously once we get to the anime and this is going on, it's like, this is going to take a lot more than 30 seconds. Although having like a little timer in the background or something like that during this time frame wouldn't be a bad idea, because it is essentially a timer. And so we see Rania, and she's like, Master Jarl, and like the other children are yelling at her, Rania! And she's like, I love school. I have lots of friends there. And we see, like, because it's being broadcast all over Elbaf at this point in time, all over the Sun Realm. And we see the giants. One of them is the one that is Rania's father, who looks just like her with, like, the upbraid and, like, the buck teeth. And it's like, Rania, that's my daughter. And Jarl is just, like, listening in on this. And Rania continues, just like, I love the library too. And it's just like, we'll get you out of here. So it's just like they're all just like heading as fast as they can toward where they know that they are, toward the branch, so they can get to them. And she's like, because the books teach us so much about the world, and my teachers taught me, like, we see Nami, and like Nami is like, she's kind of starting to cry here, because like she knows how it feels to essentially be like a child hostage. Because essentially that's kind of what she was for Arlong for the majority of her life. For a very good chunk of her life and everything. So there's that. And Rania continues just like that we shouldn't bother people and that we shouldn't do things that they don't like. And like we see her very bravely like saying this, and like we cut to the school where we see Angie is listening in on the sale, and we also see Jarl here, and we see the other kids. We see specifically Ilva and Colin are like listening in on this. You know, they're right there in front of her. They can, you know, behind her, they can, you know, see her giving this impassioned speech from behind. And Rania is continuing. She's like, if the school and the library have to disappear so I can survive, I think that would bother everyone. That's why it's better if I fall. Master Jarl, don't worry about me. I've always been lucky. I'm gonna be okay. And like she is just like tears are pouring down her face. The classic Oda, you know, crying with snot coming out of their nose type of thing. As like tears are streaming down your face. I'm like, oh child, I just want to hug you so much right now. And like, oh girl. She's kind of giving off like Izuku vibes a little bit. Is kind of what I thought, like Izuku from My Hero, where he just like cries so easily because he's just like he's got a lot of emotions. And Rania has a lot of emotions. She's also just like this very positive person. And she's like, it'll be okay. I know it'll be okay. But if I have to go in for the library to survive, then okay. It would be essentially like a similarity here would be like a lot of the time Ohara is compared to like the Library of Alexandria from like, you know, so many hundreds of, you know, thousands of years ago, of like all of this knowledge in the world and everything. And here in the United States, we have the Library of Congress, which is filled with, you know, thousands of books that are from not just our country, but other country. And there's also stuff there for music and for movies and TV shows and different things like that. And like all of that type of stuff. And it would be like essentially like, okay, we are going to threaten the children of a bunch of people unless they burn down the Library of Congress with all of the books and everything else inside of it to destroy a lot of that culture. Although, to be fair, in our world, we also have the internet, so it's like a lot of that stuff would still be able to get available again. But then it would also be like, and then we're going to have you destroy your internet. We're going to go to every single place and we're going to destroy the internet to get rid of your culture. That's fun. So we see like, and Summers just does this stupid thing where he's just like, peace, as he's like, and it's counting 2, 1, and then Jarl shouts, Angie, set the school on fire! And they're like, Jarl Summon, like, he's crying too. To be fair, also one of his, you know, Ilva is his great-granddaughter, and she's being threatened too. But it's also this whole thing of like, okay, how much of, you know, this is, you know, it's a whole this thing, and it's just like, I don't know what decision I would make here. Obviously, I wouldn't want any of like the kids to get hurt or to die or anything like that. But then it's also, it's like this, your civilization, your culture, your history, all of that type of stuff is like in this library, and even other ones from places around the world and everything else like that. I kind of want to see, I still want to see, like we see Biblo here, like the final page is a double page spread. And we see Biblo here in the library as like, as like Jarl is shouting, and burn the library, burn the school, and burn the library. And I kind of want to see Bilbo fight, or Biblo, not Bilbo. This is not The Hobbit. Biblo, I want you to see Biblo fight and do something. He's like, he's a freaking giant owl. I want to see him do something fun besides just make books bigger. And like, we see several reactions to this. We see Angie is crying. We see Saul is not completely knocked out. He is still lying in the thorns, but we see that he has started to cry. We see Robin is starting to cry. And Angie is saying, understood. Because like she doesn't want the kids to get hurt either, but she also doesn't, or essentially, unless she's like a traitor or something like that. And now we see that Summers has made his way back onto the branch, and he unleashes a bunch of vines that like wrap around Robin or like pinning her. so she can't, get the straw hats out of their ropes and everything else like that. I didn't think it would be that easy to get the ropes off, so I'm not surprised that she wasn't able to, because like it's not ropes, it's the arrows from Gunko. So again, don't know. And he's like, ha 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 ha, you look ridiculous. And you go, Robin, stop it. Is like one of the other ones, like, get out of here, Robin. Go do something. And now we have the entrance that is going to terrify the F out of Summers, which is great because I don't know if they knew that he was here. Or at least not entirely. So we have it that Scopper is arriving, that he has like booked it over here from where he was with the Giant Warrior Pirates and Ripley, where the boat went down, where the Great Eric went down, and he is just like jumping over the branch, launches, runs or I think he throws one axe with such accuracy that it like slices off Summers' left hand. Also, Summers had like his giant thorn bat Conobo thing that he made. He has that again. Not that it would be that hard to make again. Probably covered in hockey. Oh no, that's his sword. I just realized that. I hadn't gotten a good look at it before. It's a sword that he has that is like, he's drawn it and then like he's like turned it into like a giant Conobo with thorns all over it, or a bat with thorns all over it, and that's like his sword. Which is cool. I'll give him that. But like, Scopper, I don't know if he just throws an axe that goes right over at the right angle and just slices off his hand or not. And then it just falls. And Summers is just kind of looking at where his hand was. And it's just like, what? My arm isn't regenerating. And it's like, it's been a while. And like, Scopper is just like running at him from behind. Summers turns and gets like the horrified look on his face. Scopper, come on! He's just like, oh, I am effed right now. And Scopper just blitzes past him and just slices Summers just across the chest. And like Scopper, and then we get like a close-up of Scopper's face. He is not in a happy mood right now. He is in very serious mode right now. Like, he's not in like his missionary of love mode and everything else like that. He is in his, I am a protective fucking father right now, and you are threatening not just my child, but his friends, a bunch of innocent children who have done nothing to you, nothing to the world government, that are just learning about being kids, and they're just learning about all this other stuff, and you are threatening my wife and son's home. Oh, you are in a boatload of trouble right now, Mr. Celestial Dragon. So yeah. They are just, oh god, not happy. Scopper is just very not happy. He's not in like, this is like, we saw him fight when he was going against Luffy and Zoro earlier in the castle for the key. We kind of saw like how, jovial he was and like happy-go-lucky type of a thing there, with like just kind of having fun with fighting them. And then like going, with the monsters when they all showed up, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to jump on here and I'm going to fight a couple of these monsters too. This will be fun. So he's like doing that. And now we see Scopper in like serious mode, where he's like, okay, you pissed off the wrong guy here, Summers. And Summers apparently clearly knows who Scopper Gabon is. So let's put it this way. We know that Gabon was part of the group that was at God Valley 38 years ago. Pretty good chance that Summers was also there as well, although depending on like how his aging works, he could have been a bit younger back then. And technically he would have been younger, but whether or not he physically looked younger is a little bit left up for debate. But the fact that Scopper did enough damage, or like was able to have enough hockey ability to make it that Summers' hand was not growing back, means something. To be fair, we don't know what Scopper's axes are made out of. Essentially, we would think that they're just made out of like steel or whatever that regular axes are made out of. They're just like Scopper's axes because they're Scopper's axes, and he like coats them in hockey all the time. What if his axes are somehow coated in sea stone? That would probably be a good idea. That might be something that can actually then cause damage to the God's Knights, because we haven't found anything else that has been able to cause lasting damage to them, or to the Gorosei with their ability to regenerate. So maybe his axes have like something, or maybe it's a combination of like, I don't think it's ever been determined if Sea Prism Stone can be imbued with hockey. I would assume it can, that you can have a weapon or something of Sea Prism Stone and imbue it with hockey, and then use that as just like another way to enhance the weapon's ability. Although if you're going up against a Devil Fruit user, having a weapon that is made of Sea Prism Stone, like we have with Smoker's Jetty, which is with his staff that he uses, or where we have it that, Sea Prism bullets, or whatever the heck you want to have them have it, like Wano and different things like that, where they have like different weapons made out of Sea Prism Stone. And I think Scopper did mention that he's been to Wano before, so I guess it's a possibility that he has gotten weapons made of Sea Prism Stone, or he had them for a while, like maybe he found them somewhere and used them. And then again, it's also, this is Scopper Gabon in protective father mode. You're threatening his child and his wife and child's home and this culture that he adores in the form of the Giants, on top of the fact that you're also threatening this school and this library that means so much to his wife, even if, and to a degree to Colin too, although Colin's not a big fan of the school, but it probably still means something to him. And he's like all of that anger and rage just like imbued with the hockey into the axes, and slice. My hand's not growing back, and slice. Okay, that's not good. And then just like see how much he falls to the ground. See how quickly Summers falls to the ground. So I thought I saw something about there's supposed to be a break next week on the chapter, so I'm not sure if there is. Then obviously I'll have a different video up next week, either a movie review or another Devil Fruit. Not sure at the moment. But at the moment, that's the end of this chapter. I enjoyed it. I like the fact that we got to see Robon, Scopper, Robon. Got to see Robin do some badass stuff there. And stuff like that. I still wanted to see her just like pop up as her Fleur Demonio, which could still happen. She could still do this, where she like turns into the Fleur Demonio. Now that Summers has been injured, it would be nice to see her just like go full Fleur Demonio and just like rip him in half. I still want to see her do that. It's like rip him in half and like throw him one way and throw him the other way. Like regenerate from this. Just like see her do that. That would be fun. So that's what we have. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And I hope you have a nice rest of your week. Bye.